Okay, so real quick, I did want to show you what the Home Cook Duo looks like on my stovetop. And so you've got the Perfect Pot in blue, and then this is the Always Pan in spice. They kind of remind me of like a baby shower or gender reveal color, where this is like blue for boy and this is spice for girl. But this is the combination. They've got a wide variety of color options, so you can always check them out. Any of them I think would really go really well together. But they do look very nice and elegant on the stovetop. And so what we'll do now is we'll start cooking with these, and we'll just get a general sense of how they work for my general kind of use for meal prep. Okay, so for meal prepping today, I'm actually gonna prep some chicken as far as sauteing it for just like a grilled chicken salad that I make on a regular basis. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna make some more chicken with like a fajita taco combination. That's gonna be actually combined with peppers and onions, as well as rice and like a bean tomato that I make. And we'll just see how this goes. So first off, this is the Perfect Pot. What we're gonna do is add about 2 tablespoons or so of olive oil. I'm going to use that for my cooking oil for this. And then I'm actually going to add about, I think this is like 5 chicken breasts that are just basically sliced. And so we'll just throw those in there and let them get cooking. And my plan is I'll just see how this goes as far as cooking with this. But that's what it looks like as far as this. Immediately. And then what I'm doing for seasoning, I don't make anything complex. I'm not the best chef or anything. This is really quick, convenient meals that are cheap and effective for being healthy. But we're gonna add some garlic powder. All right, we're going to add Italian seasoning. These are all from Walmart. You can get them from Walmart, cheap, super cheap. All right, just pile that on there. And then we're gonna add some pepper. And that's all I'm gonna do for seasoning this. This is gonna be 5 chicken breasts that are basically just sliced. And then we'll let this cook with the lid on. I'll show you partway through and at the end, and then I'll start prepping the other food that we have to do. Okay, so next up for the Always Pan, we're gonna utilize this for cooking or sauteing peppers and onions. It's gonna be 3 peppers, 3 onions, so this is all sliced up already. I'm gonna just put olive oil in here and cook it this way. I don't do any flavoring on this. It's something I just mix in there. But we'll just see how well this is for capacity. But as you can tell, this is a pretty large pan, so like that can fit 3 complete sliced onions and peppers without any issues. And as this evaporates, it'll get smaller. So we'll let that saute. Essentially, we'll just throw the lid on and let it cook for a period of time, and we'll just kind of follow up with the chicken once we get to that point. Okay, so this is the chicken after whatever it was, like 5 minutes of cutting the peppers, onions. I'll say that with the lid on, it does retain a lot of heat. So as you can tell on the edges of the chicken, it is getting a little bit like, I guess like steamy. And so what I'm probably gonna do is just cook this without the lid, just because I prefer my chicken for my salad to be a little bit crispier, more of like a grilled type of thing, rather than this kind of like sogginess. But this is what it looks like as far as cooking partially way through, and then we'll show you at the end as well. All right, real quick, I did want to show you how the spilling or spigot function is for this as far as the Perfect Pot. So this is the chicken, there's just like excess fluid there, so I'm just pouring this off so it cooks a little bit quicker. But it works very well. The fact that the pot's so light, you have no issues handling this. Additionally, I'm just using like a towel without any problems, and it's pretty good. You do have to use something on the handles though. They do get hot, so be cautious with that. So here's the first batch of chicken almost done. I'll say that overall it's worked pretty well. The non-stick surface here, as you can tell with chicken, did not stick whatsoever, which is really nice because typically I use a wok, and I got like a cast iron wok from Walmart, and it sticks every single time, and I'm always scrubbing the surface, and it's a pain. But it's pretty much the same, it's probably 3 times the size of the wok, and it works just as effectively. I'll say the only drawback or kind of issue I had with this is I probably put the lid on and caused issues as far as cooking from that standpoint. So next time I'll probably just cook chicken without the lid, just because it kind of made it a little bit too moist. But this is pretty much just sauté chicken, and then we'll just pour this out, and real quick I'll just do that just to give you a sense of how well it works. But it's lightweight, it's easy to pour everything out, and literally in a second I have everything out of there, and into this container right here, which I'm actually gonna cool overnight and I'll add to a salad. And just for completion's sake, I'm gonna show you what the salads are that I make. So basically all this is like a general salad mix that you get, like the big tub, divided into 5 separate containers. Then we have tomato, cucumber, purple onion, and then some cheddar cheese, and that's pretty much it. So that's it. And then what I'll do is after this chicken chills overnight, I'll add it to each of these, and that's my salads or my lunch for the week. All right, and next up we're gonna be virtually doing the exact same thing with another batch of chicken. We're gonna not even clean or wash this in between. We're gonna add some olive oil, and then we're gonna add the chicken. This chicken's gonna be mixed with like fajita or taco mix, and you'll see what the end product is, but virtually this is gonna cook identically. The only thing I'm going to do this time compared to last time is I am not going to put the lid on, and you'll actually get an immediate side-by-side comparison of how this chicken cooks with the lid on and without the lid on. All right, in the meantime, the sauteed onion and pepper is pretty much done. I left this steaming with the lid on the entire time. Stirred it occasionally. I didn't put any seasoning or anything on like this. This is just gonna go in the kind of dinner thing I prepare. One thing that's pretty nice about this is that the handle on the always pan, because it's extended out from the pot, you can easily touch this and use this without any difficulty. You can stir it, maneuver it like that. You can kind of shift it around without problems. Be very cautious with these other handles though, both on the perfect pot as well as this. These do get hotter, so you do have to handle them with care. Be very careful with that. But that's the sauteed vegetables. We'll just pour this out into very similarly into a glass container, and then at the end I'll throw it in like my meal prep containers with everything once we're done. So very similarly, I have essentially no issues as far as sticking to this. It's easy to clean, it's easy to get out. Everything slid out in a second. The non-stick surface works exceptionally well. This would probably clean up like in 2 seconds if you wash it with soap and water. So next up, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start prepping some other stuff. I'll show you okay, so as far as the chicken, it was cooking very similarly. It was doing a little bit better without the lid on. However, I just added fajita mix to this, and I don't want it to dry out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add back the lid to this and just let this kind of cook at a lower temperature. But so far it seems to be working very well in general as far as the perfect pot for the chicken. And next up we'll start creating like a bean tomato kind of onion mix that I'm going to put in the always pan. All right, so next up for the always pan, what we're going to do is we're going to throw like this random concoction I put together, but essentially it's going to be tomatoes, garlic, purple onion, sorry I'm like spelling as I'm distracted, and jalapenos. All right, let me just throw all this in here. To be honest, this spoon's kind of nice that like you could use it as a scraper like this too. I didn't even think about that, but it was just like next to the stove and I did it that way. But essentially, so that's what that is. All right, and then it's gonna be 2 cans of black beans, all right? And then the last thing we're going to add is the seasoning. This is like a mixture of, I think it's, so garlic, pepper, paprika, smoked paprika, cayenne pepper, and then chili powder. And I think that's it, but that's all that's gonna go in there. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix this up and basically just get it to a high temperature, get it boiling, and then I'll let it simmer for a while and let it sit. Okay, so here is the fajita chicken mix. Really it's just fajita mix mixed with chicken, nothing else. I gotta say the non-stick surface for this is exceptional. Like, this is not sticking whatsoever. The chicken's cooking very well. It's super convenient, easy to use. Compared to the wok I have, like if I tried to do this in the wok, literally I'm sitting there like digging and scraping it nonstop with like this metal spatula right here. I'll be sitting there scraping it nonstop the whole time to make sure it doesn't stick. So the fact that this is not sticking so well and it's so clean, it's just gonna make the whole cooking experience just more pleasant and easier to do and quicker to do and easier to clean up. So I'm really happy with this experience so far. This chicken's pretty much done. So basically we'll let the bean concoction work. I'll take out the chicken and then basically I'm gonna just boil rice in this just to see how effective that works. And real quick, this is what the pot looks like after doing the chicken with the fajita mix. So there's some residual residue on the sides, but that's really it. It cleaned up pretty well. What I'm gonna do real quick is I'm gonna take this off the burner just so this doesn't burn on the surface. And then what we're gonna do is throw some rice in here and we're gonna boil it for a period of time and see how well it cooks right. So this might be gross for you watching, obviously, because you're excellent cooks, but essentially what I did was I threw rice in here with water. I didn't even rinse this out just because I don't really care about it. It's really just gonna boil off the water, cook the rice, and if there's any residual flavor, it's just gonna get absorbed in this. It'll make it quicker and easier to do because with the home cooked duo, you only have 2 pots and pans, so if you're doing multiple things, you'd have to essentially hand wash, let it cool and stuff in between. So I'm trying to optimize just kind of streamlining, like cooking one thing into the next. So what we'll do is we'll let this boil and then we'll let the rice cook. Okay, so here's what the bean concoction looks like after about 5 minutes. It actually boiled and heated up very, very quickly, much quicker than my usual pot and pan that I use. I think this like the Louis pan just conducts heat a little bit better than kind of what I currently have. But that's what it is. So essentially it'll be boiling, and then what we'll do is we'll lower down the temperature and then let this simmer for a while, just all the flavors absorb into this. So that's what. And even more cooler is the fact that the rice water is already boiling after, I don't know what this has been, like 4 minutes. So these pots like really conduct heat quickly, and this definitely boiled faster than I use a giant stock pot and I put the rice in the water and then do it that way, and it literally takes like 10-15 minutes to cook, or like boil. So basically this boiled way quicker than my normal pot. I'm not even kidding. So that's a pretty cool factor with this, but essentially I boil it off and then I lower the temperature down, and then I just let the rice like absorb the water and cook. Okay, so real quick, I did want to show you something interesting with the rice cooking, is the fact that I actually have this completely boiling, and the nice part about this lid is it releases all the steam, so you don't really have to worry about the rice boiling over. So the stock pot I have doesn't have slots on the end or anything like that, so usually what I have to do is like put the lid like this and allow the steam to boil out that way. And if I don't do it, it just boils over and like you get a whole mess on the actual counter space. But the nice part about the Perfect Pot is you literally can let this boil entirely and the steam's just releasing full range, and you don't really have to worry about that. That's a really cool feature. Like I'm not kidding at all. So the only other thing I did want to point out as this rice is boiling is that it's like a negative with the Perfect Pot or the lid handle design, is like the grooves on here don't really line up entirely, and so this spoon is a little bit top heavy, where if you put it like this, it basically like starts sliding over and falls forward. So that's happened a couple times where if you put it on the end here where it's this last kind of slot here, it basically just slides off like that. So you do have to be cognizant of that. And so what you do is just shift it a little bit backwards like this, and it'll sit flush there, and you don't have to put it anywhere else. And it hasn't really made a mess or anything, so that's pretty cool. But that's one kind of drawback, is I don't know why they put this groove so far up. If they just slid it back like here, or maybe forwards a little bit, it would probably be okay. But for some reason it's a little bit top heavy there, where the design is just flawed a little bit. So you do have to kind of rest the end of the spoon actually on it. Okay, so as far as the bean concoction thing, it's pretty much cooked, but I did want to make a note while I was sitting here. I like just forgot about it like for 10 minutes and I didn't even think of it. Didn't even stir it or anything for 10 minutes, and it's completely not stuck to the bottom or anything like that. So the nonstick surface worked really well. Traditionally, if I've done this in the past with the other pan, I use like a basic stainless steel saucepan. If I did that, I'd get burn residue on the bottom or something like that, and then essentially it'd just be hard to stir and you get like burnt chunks on it. So even after sitting for like 10 minutes and not even stirring this, the nonstick surface worked really well for preventing it from burning to it. So that's a plus here as well as compared to what I traditionally use. Okay, so the rice finally cooked. I actually found a pretty cool and fascinating use of the roasting rack that comes with this. Is actually the silicone legs here. It provides like a non-slippery surface so it doesn't slide. And I'm assuming they thought about this, but you can actually use this as a a stand for the perfect pot once you're done, and so you can put this directly on the counter. Don't have to worry about heating or damaging the counter or anything like that. Additionally, I did find it pretty cool that you can actually just put the spoon directly in here when you're transferring it, so you can grab it like this with a towel or something like that and easily transfer it, and it's super light. But basically what I'm going to do now is everything that I cooked here, I'm just going to put in Tupperwares here, and as promised, I'm not going to use anything else other than the home cooked duo setup, and I'm gonna just spoon this out. So basically I put like about a cup of rice in each one, and so we'll just spoon this out, and then I basically add everything else. The one thing I did want to say is that the only drawback, at least with the Always pan, is the Always pan did not come with a roaster rack like this, so I will have to use like a traditional, like, whatever you call these pot holders to put this over here for the Always pan. But I believe they do sell this separate, so you could always buy a separate one of these and use this as like a typical like pot holder or whatever you want to call it, hot pad on your countertop. But that's a cool feature. Basically I'm just going to spoon this out, show you what it looks like when it's done, and then we'll discuss the overall experience. So actually what I ended up doing was I actually spooned out all the rice from the perfect pot, used the kind of the rack as a holder there, and then I swapped it out for the Always pan. And so now I can actually spoon this directly into these containers next to or on top of the rice easily, and I don't actually need to buy another rack. But if you ever wanted to, or putting this side by side, you could easily do that. But with this setup, as far as spooning it out like this type of thing, you could just swap it out like I did here and then just divvy it out and then go that route. So it's pretty cool, neat design, and I didn't even think about this. But okay, and so for prosperity, here's the end product. So this is rice, the bean mixture, the peppers, onions, and then chicken with the fajita mix and the and cheese on top. It's basically like a fajita bean combination, and it's got a lot of protein, got a lot of rice, got a lot of calories, which is what I need. So that's everything as far as cooking. Real quick, we'll walk through how to clean up the home cooked duo, and then we'll be done with this. Okay, so here's the two pots and pans in my sink. They don't fit on their own, so what I'm going to do is actually take the Always pan, throw it to the side for now, but they've been cooled off. We're going to use the natural sponge that they give us, just because out of principle I should. But basically we'll rinse this up, kind of see if it absorbs water. So this doesn't really absorb water, so it kind of fluffs up a little bit, but really it's just kind of like an abrasive surface. What we're going to do is add a little bit of soap to this just to make it soapy, okay? And then we're just gonna rinse this off with this. So the top really is clean. There was basically just like some residue on it, and that's all we're gonna do for this. We'll rinse it off. All right, and then I'm gonna throw it to the side, let it dry completely, so that we'll throw over here. Okay, and then here's the actual spoon. So the spoon still has some rice on it. We'll just clean that off, and then use this sponge to clean it. And so that's the cleanup for the spoon. Obviously this is wood, so you want to let it dry entirely, but no stains whatsoever. Super easy to clean up. And then here's the actual perfect pot. So there's some residue from the actual rice for the last thing we cooked. Interestingly, this is what the sponge is doing. It's like expanding as we use this, which is kind of weird. But we'll just kind of abrasively rinse this all off. And this is definitely way easier cleanup than the stock pot that I use. The stock pot, when I use the rice, it'll get stuck to the sides. You have to kind of like really dig in there, but because of the non-stick surface, basically this is, I think, pretty much all clean. So if you look at it, it's completely clean, and I didn't even clean this out between the chicken and the rice. So that's the perfect pot as far as cleaning it. And very similarly, we'll just clean up the Always pan. So this has more residue and stuff from that last meal I cooked on it, or last dish. Basically, we're gonna just use this abrasive thing and just rinse it off as well. This kind of reminds me of when you have like a seasoned cast iron pan, where with the non-stick surface, really you just have to wipe it off, make sure you kind of clean it with soap and water just so there's no residue or anything, and clean it off that way. But that's the lid, nothing on it at this point. We'll throw it to the side. And then here's the spoon for this. This is going to be virtually identical to the other one, I would presume, as far as cleanup. but it's pretty straightforward there. So that's what that is. All right. And then we'll rinse it off, and then here's kind of after rinsing it off with just water, but we're gonna throw a little bit of soap in here for the sake of making sure it's all clean up. And then we'll just use this sponge, and immediately, as you can tell, just with one wipe, I'm not even pressing, all this stuff is coming right out. And so, to be honest, I'm extremely impressed with the cleanup. It's super convenient, it's super easy to clean up. The fact that you don't have to scrub or anything like that. This is taking like less than a minute as far as cleanup. That'll just save your time cooking, cleaning, making the whole experience just overall more pleasant and less of a hassle. And then what we'll do is rinse off the sides here just to make sure, okay? So that's that as far as the always pan, but that's essentially cleanup for the always pan. So we'll just do a summary of the video. All right, so that's everything I have for this video. So as you can tell, I was able to cook or prepare 5 separate salads with grilled chicken that's gonna be chilled and put on these overnight. And then 6 separate dinners that are this like fajita mix. And I'll say that overall impressions, I am highly impressed with the home cooked duo. To be honest, looking back, if I went back and was kind of going through the whole process again, I would definitely purchase this again. The big drawback is that, as the company discussed, their expectation is with the ceramic non-stick coating, you will potentially need to replace this after 2 to 3 years. However, as you can tell throughout the whole experience of meal prepping today, I was able to utilize these 2 separate dishes to cook everything I needed without difficulty. And essentially I used the 2 utensils that came with it and used that alone. The only other items I used as far as preparing this was the actual containers for my meal prep, a couple of bowls just to store things between the separate meals, and then I used a couple knives. So I'm highly impressed with this. The non-stick coating was phenomenal. The fact that you can clean it so easily is really nice. The fact that I can transition a one dish to the next is nice. The overall design is really nice as far as the elegance, the look of it, the colors of it, the color combinations. I'd say the drawbacks to it are the fact that the handles on the side are heat retaining, so if you grab these specifically without any hot mitts or anything like that, you will burn yourself, so you do have to be careful with that. But they do put warning labels on it. Additionally, the one thing with the Perfect Pot is the handle, when you put it on, might tilt a little bit, so you just have to be a little bit careful with that. So that's really kind of the summary of everything. The only other thing I did want to say is that I did not really go over the steamer or the strainer in this video, just because I was not really cooking anything like that. On my alternate weeks, I actually cook some vegetables and things like that. And so what I'll plan on doing is doing a separate video, both going over the steamer itself and the strainer, just so you get a sense of how those work. But overall, I'm highly impressed, and to be honest, I kind of regret purchasing everything else, because I probably spent about the same amount of money as this, and I have way more pots and pans as a result, and they're just, you have to store them more, and they're more cumbersome and more heavy. So I'm highly impressed with this. I'd highly recommend the Our Place Home Cooked Duo. It's definitely worth the money. It's definitely worth the quality and the build of it. We'll see how well it holds up over time and the longevity of it. But speaking with the company, if you handle with care, as they say, as far as low, medium heat, limiting the type of oil you put on it, and then making sure that you wash it with hand washing, not dishwasher, it should last pretty long. So if you're interested in this, there will be a link down below if you're interested in purchasing it. Otherwise, if you have questions, comments, please post them below. I know this was a long video, but I think it was comprehensive and covers this so well that it's really a testament to how the quality is for the home cooked duo. So thanks for watching. If you're interested in subscribing, please subscribe to my channel.